Good evening, everyone. Tuesday, January 26th. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Fargo Board of Education. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda? Jim? All right, there's a motion for approval of the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that by Brian? I don't know who else gave a second. Any rate, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes. Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item is recognition of audience. We don't have anyone that has signed up to speak with us this evening, so we'll move on to the reports section of the agenda. And the first item is a report on equitable resources and planning monitoring from Human Resources, Doug Andring. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm proud to be up here on behalf of Cabinet and the HR team with this report. So, want to just cover a couple of the high points of the report. And boy, if there's a way for glasses not to fog up with masks, I'd love to know what that is. We still serve around 2,000 regular employees. And then for the calendar year of 2020, Fargo Public Schools issued 3,481 W-2s. It's down a little bit from last year due to no Trollwood summer planning. So we issued about 100 and some less. The next section is the Human Resources team. I'm proud to announce we onboarded 2 new staff. That's Shannon Cullen, our office assistant. So she's our main point of customer service and contact at the district office and for the HR team. And then Fallon Hare-Miller, she's our human resources assistant. So she's gonna take care of things like eye observation, Marzano reporting, workforce safety insurance. And they onboarded with us just recently. Couple of high points on the accomplishments over the year of 2020. Recruitment and orientation of new staff. We really did have to redefine what that looked like over the summer with COVID. We couldn't pack people into a room like we normally did. So we redefined some new procedures. We used the Davies theater to bring in new teachers, substitutes, spread them out, and we held our orientation in there. And then kind of redefined how we did lunch. So just a lot of extra work around that, but I think very successful how that turned out. The HR team created a new staff, what I would call a COVID-19 reporting form, and that really was to take care of staff that might need to quarantine due to exposure or due to being positive cases or needing to stay home with their children. That was a very manual process. The principal or the staff member would call HR. We'd intake that, we'd communicate. It could be a phone call or an email. We quickly realized that we needed some sort of automated form that brought the communication together. So we put that together, it was about the time we started doing Binax testing. And what that did is the staff member inputs if they need to be out based on a test, and then sends consistent communication to the principal, to HR, and that staff member so that they all get the same information. And then finally, a little shout out to the payroll team, the distribution of the 1920 contracts and wage statements. They worked really hard on the retro pay, making sure that was all good, processing for eligible employees, and then created an electronic issuing system for certified contracts. So that's how we'll be issuing now. Rather than the paper mailing out, and that created quite a bit more efficiency in that process. If we look at the employee statistics section, January of 2021, this is our current count, head count of administrators, teachers, other salaried staff, and so on. And then the employee statistics information. These are all regularly scheduled employees in this count, so anybody who has a continuing contract or a regular schedule, so not really any of our temporary employees. However, positions that were hired using CARES Act funds with a definitive end date of June 4th, or the end of our school year, were included in this count. And then you'll see below examples of the types of positions that we include in each category as we're pulling these statistics. So just for example, administrators are principals, assistant principals, deans of students, cabinet directors, and then you can see the teachers category, and then the other service categories. And then if we hop to the next page, a little bit on our hiring statistics, there's two tables there. July 1 of 2020 to January 1st of 2021, kind of a snapshot of our fall semester hiring. And then you'll see over on the other side the CARES Act hiring, same time frame. The CARES Act hiring is not in addition to the hiring statistics. I just wanted to spin that out so that we could see specifically the count, the head count again, of positions that we hired using CARES Act dollars that was available to us. And then you'll see below, for instance, administrators added this fiscal year, the Director of Equity and Inclusion. We added 2 virtual academy deans of students, 5 regular elementary deans of students, and then right now our Explorer Academy principal and Carl Ben Eilson principal searches are in process and in motion. Teachers, a majority of the positions hired were due to resignation and retirement. Some of those new positions you see, literacy partners in our early childhood, elementary, and then our middle school levels. For other salaried, we did hire a grant-funded K-12 literacy coordinator and recently a behavioral interventionist. And then our educational support, we did hire some health aide positions to assist our elementary schools, and we used CARES Act dollars to hire those positions. And then within maintenance, we hired a safety technician that was also funded by CARES Act dollars and was created to assist the district safety and emergency management coordinator with some of their duties and responsibilities. And then moving on, our resignations and retirements. So again, a snapshot of fall semester and up to January 1st as compared to last fall semester and last year's report. You can see that comparison, so a little bit of information on that. We did update our exit interview questionnaire. We're going to implement this hopefully by this February. We did have a process before where if you resigned or you retired, we would ask you if you wanted to volunteer to give that feedback so that administration could look for those themes and make changes to whatever it is we might need to change. We created a new form that really combined the 2 different processes based on if you were a teacher or support staff. It's one form. It doesn't matter what kind of staff member you are. It's a more comprehensive form focused on climate, pay, benefits, equity, and things of that nature. So we'll roll that out in February. Now, specific to the educational support resignations, there is a variation between the 2 years. And what I can say is some of this was accounted that the district started its process of educational support staff hiring much later into the paraeducator hires based on that we didn't necessarily know what instructional model we were starting with and what that was going to look like and the staffing we'd need around that. So that hiring really went further into fall semester than it normally would for us. And then our kind of our challenge in hiring noon supervisors, we have not been able to fill a lot of those positions. So of course, positions that we can't fill, there's nobody to resign out of them. And then finally, one of the things the district has done is we've worked really hard to try to provide flexible work schedules, as it states in here, that provide options of telework, temporary reductions in hours. It's really allowed staff to have that flexibility if they need to stay home because their child's at home. Maybe it's a loss of daycare or their child has to be quarantined, where if that option of telework is available, we would provide that for them. And then finally, on the last page, a couple of highlights on the operational and strategic plan action items. Specific to new employee orientation survey, we did implement a new survey, and that's specific to like our new teacher, new staff, and then our substitute orientations over the summer. All respondents did rate the summer orientation programs as being either excellent or good. We present on topics such as benefits, absence management, policy review, print center, portal, and other types of IT topics. And then teaching and learning holds a day dedicated to teacher management specific topics. Title IX, there was collaboration in HR with the Equity and Inclusion Office to, per the new guidelines that came down, I think it was August 14th, with a change in our discrimination and harassment policy. We put together a Title IX investigative team, and I'm one of the deputy coordinators on there. Put a presence out on our public website and really have begun in training and education in Title IX. And then the Marzano Teacher Evaluation Committee, just as it says here, lead and organize a group of teachers and administrators to assess our Marzano evaluation tool right now, and that work is in progress right now. And then explore academy staffing. As I said before, that principal search is in motion right now, but collaboration with the SPED department to fulfill the staffing plan for principals, teachers, and support staff. Because fall of 21 is rapidly approaching, and we need to be staffed up and need to identify the PD that the teachers that will be starting in there might be required to do. And then finally, I would end, we were able to recruit and offer 47 long-term substitute agreements for the 2021 school year, and this has really helped us fill most, if not all, of our absences, and really any absences due to COVID or regular illness or anything this year, where we are just about 100%, if not 100% filled every week as far as what our teacher absences are. Really to the point now where we have a little bit of flexibility because we're so short on paraeducator subbing, that if the necessity exists in a school building, we can have them also, those teacher subs also help fill there. So I tip my hat to my team for aggressively recruiting and getting that put in motion. Those are the high points of the plan, and I would be happy to take any questions.
David?
Mr. Andring, I've got a couple of questions for you. First of all, I'm concerned about the numbers in the column with the educational support resignations. In the exit interviews, do they give any indication of why they're resigning?
Most of the resignations, and well, what I would back up and say is the exit interview process is something that we really do need to beef up. Right now we have a separate one for teachers, and then right now we have one for educational support. We're definitely going to have better data next year, but we do have an exit or a resignation and retirement form where if that teacher or support staff member wants to put down their reason, they can. Most of them are due to relocating to another area or found another opportunity. Families may be taking them out of the area. Perhaps they got a teaching job somewhere else. So those have been the main reasons that I've seen when we do get that feedback on the form.
Last year, when there were almost three times as many resignations as this year. Was there any overlying reason there?
Well, I think the reason that we're seeing less right now is some of it, again, is in the report. We haven't been able to fill many of our noon supervisors positions, so that doesn't account for all of it, but those remain open. We also really engaged in the paraeducator hiring quite a bit later and didn't really get staffed, and some of those vacancies still do stay open, so nobody to resign out of. But as those educational support staff start a little bit later, they're not likely resigning right away as if they would have if they started on time.
David and then Rupak.
one final question, Doug. The contracts for the long-term subs, now, were they given just a one-year contract, or is the intention that that will be a continuing contract? They will be hired next year as well?
Sure, and those aren't actually, they're not signed or certified contracts. Those are agreements that they sign to work every student contact day with us. So it's not a continuing contract, so their assignment would be done at the end of this current school year.
Rupak?
Going back to the paraeducators, I think qualitatively some of the things that we heard last year were some of the challenges in our district with that position was paraeducators were just one category of position without defined scope of work. So we have since then created different pathways for paraeducator 1, 2, and 3. And then secondly, there weren't necessarily leadership opportunities or pipeline opportunities for upward mobility. So since last year, we've also created a lead para model. Would you be able to talk through some of those?
Yep. Yeah, and that certainly with the lead para, each building has a lead para. So that is, as Dr. Gandhi had said, provided a little bit better of a pathway to really advance in your career and I think stabilize the para population at each building, where now that group has a lead that they can go to that's responsible for some of those onboarding duties and training. So that is something that is, has, I believe, helped stabilized and really is new over the last year. So I think we're seeing some of the effects of that too.
Other questions? I have a couple questions, Doug. Under the 2020 accomplishments, the bullet point that talks about partnering with the Village Business Institute to offer all district employees wellness sessions focusing on the power of positivity, the power of gratitude, and stress management. Could you speak to that a little bit more? I'm curious about the participation level in that. I assume it wasn't mandatory, but offered as an option. And is that something that continues into the future?
Yep. And really where this stemmed is the safety committee last year made a recommendation that the district provide similar types of professional development with the village. We bought more what I guess I would call service credits this year for this mandatory wellness sessions specific to these three pieces. And I really reached out to the principals and I said, what, based on the culture and climate in your buildings, what should we be offering out there? These three items came up. As far as the attendance, I wouldn't say it's great. It's not mandatory, but it is out there. They go December, January, and February, and I think this would be something that we intend on offering every school year.
Thank you. The other question I have is hiring practices that we might be working on that would strive to help better reflect the student population that we have. Is there work that's being done in the district regarding that? And if so, what could you share with us?
Absolutely. And to be quite honest, a lot more work needs to be done. Some of the things that we do have in place, every year we have a contract with diversityjobs.com. So they basically scrape our website. And then I get a report every month of how many hits we got out onto our website, how many times it's been viewed. I think even some statistics of how many applicants were driven there. So we do try to, at least from the recruitment and advertising standpoint, work with them. Even with some of our positions, we partnered with our local campus or in college diversity offices to try to send through and out to those communities. Recently, well, I would say last year actually, and more training definitely does need to be due on this, but the district does have a search committee manual and a quick reference guide that my office put together, and there's a section on there on diversity and equity. So what kind of questions do we ask? What kind of screening processes do we use? Identifying biases and things of that nature. So really the next part of that is the global training to anybody having decision-making authority within the search process.
Thank you. Rupak?
I think in addition to some of the outside measures that Doug kind of spoke about, consulting with M-State's diversity office and other offices and using some of the sources to get a broader reach for applications, I think an important part of the conversation is also just, if we want staff that are reflective of our student body, how do we start building internal pipelines as well? Last year, Dr. Gross and the teaching and learning team started an internal pipeline process in partnership with NDSU and Valley City that Tamara has taken over some of that work this year as well. It's been a little bit slow going this year because of COVID, but essentially what the goal is, it's a program that we're calling Future Fargo for now, is an opportunity to identify high school juniors and seniors are coming specifically from low-income backgrounds, so not necessarily diversity in race, but in terms of individuals that might want to be able to experience college and have that opportunity in a guaranteed job at a reduced rate. So the way the program would work is that we would identify juniors and seniors that would take intro to ed classes their their junior and senior year of high school. Upon graduation from high school, they would work for Fargo Public Schools in either the capacity of a paraprofessional or a union supervisor or other roles while taking collegiate programming in the evening, and they would take that at a reduced rate, and then upon graduation from that, potentially have guaranteed employment with Fargo Public Schools as a teacher for 5 years, because we really do believe that if we have our own alumni teaching our own students and we have them initially for the first 5 years, then likely that they're able to stay with us as teachers as well. So that's something kind of in concept and development. We're working with coursework with NDSU for the secondary ed side and Valley City for the elementary ed side, but that's something in the works. It's going to be a bigger project, and we're hoping to get some United Way funding potentially to provide scholarships for those students to get through their college as well. But that's something that we are working as a longer-term vision for the district.
Thank you. Very informative. Anyone else? Jennifer?
Is there supposed to be, oh no, I can hear me. Okay. Feedback. Is it too close to me now? It's not like the old ones. I'm not used to this. Okay. Thank you, Doug. I have a question going back to the exit interview information that you shared and some of the things that your team has put in place to sort of combine that form and make it more available or more comprehensive, it sounds like. But as you mentioned, exit interviews can be extremely helpful, not only in identifying both powerful practices for an organization, but also opportunities for improvement. And so I guess my question is, when you mentioned low participation rates, in that, how is it that it's rolled out to individuals, and are they incentivized in any way, or how are they encouraged to complete the information?
And the low participation rates was specific to enrolling in the village sessions, but as far as the exit interview surveys, how we're going to roll it out is anytime we receive a resignation or retirement, it'll be emailed. So the staff member will still have to have a Fargo Public Schools account, because we want to get that information from them right away before that they would leave. So that would be emailed to them with an introductory statement saying, please give us that feedback. It's not used to track any sort of individual responses, but rather look at themes within groups that administration can use to make decisions to better our culture and climate or whatever it may be. So every time we do receive a resignation or retirement, we would plan on emailing that out to that staff member.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Next is the COVID-19 instructional plan update, Dr. Gandhi and Dr. Newman. Dr. Gandhi, would you like to start?
We haven't had a meeting recently, so I'll let Dr. Newman start, and then I can maybe share a little bit about just how this school weeks have been, or how school has gone since we returned to in-person instruction.
Yes, I'm happy to report for the first time ever reporting to you. We have not had a COVID-19 instructional plan committee meeting since we last met. But I did just reach out to my liaison school principals to get a sense of how their buildings were looking and feeling, having all the kids back full time. First was Dr. Bursch, principal here at South. I won't read you the whole thing, but it was very positive. He spoke a lot about the positive energy back in the building. He said it was very exciting to have all in-person learners returning. The students were great with mask expectations, and they enjoyed being with their peers. It's been almost 10 months since students have had this type of educational setting. He spoke about the protocols and practices that we introduced during hybrid seem to just transition pretty seamlessly with having everyone back. Let's see. A little hiccup he reported was having a few more students in the second lunch run because students did not read their schedules accurately, but that will be corrected for the next day. And then I also reached out to Jason Cressup, principal. Let's see here. And he said, so far so good. I will say that I'm very encouraged about some of the academic data that teachers are reporting to me about overall student progress. He can't confirm with strict data, but based on conversations he's had with first and second grade teachers, our students have been making great strides as compared to other years. I'm certainly going to confirm this with data, but he was really excited about making some academic catch-up and academic progress, having everybody back 5 days a week at Lewis and Clark. So I just thought I'd share that.
I'll just add, I think because of my schedule and legislative session a little bit, I haven't had a chance to visit campuses, but I do plan on visiting campuses, and Tamara's doing kind of equity walks, which I'll be joining her on this semester as well. But in just terms of meeting with principals and talking to principals, things are going really well. I think the biggest data points that we can look at too is our data, both in terms of transmission rates that haven't skyrocketed or that we haven't seen any exponential significant increase or decrease either. But then also just I want to talk about our staff and our substitute fill rate data as well. Doug and his team have done a tremendous job. I think also just want to express my gratitude to the board for allowing us to invest in some long-term subs, but we haven't had those critical shortages in staffing that you might hear about in other districts, and to be honest, where we were maybe in October or even November as well, and part of that is because of the investment that we made in long-term subs. So those things are going really well, but we'll continue to monitor and make sure that we are working to give kids the best education that we can. Earlier today, CDC released some new guidance, and JAMA Pediatrics have put out guidance this week as well, just talking about on a large scale, when you look across the nation and you start outweighing the benefits and versus the transmission rates, it really is benefit to kids to be back in person instruction, and we're seeing that as well. So extremely proud of all of our staff and all of our principals and teachers that have just kind of taken it on and making sure that we're providing a safe environment.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. Anyone have questions? David?
My grandson returned to South on the 19th, and I've been quizzing him nearly daily to see how it's going. And he's really pleased with the way it's going. He said, I asked him about masks. He said, no, everybody's wearing masks. There really hasn't been any issue. He did, however, mention lunch. He said the lunch lines are so long that usually he skips lunch. He just, by the time he gets, if he were to stand in line, he wouldn't have time to eat. So apparently there's a little bit that has to be worked out there. And I'm going to go up to North on Monday and talk to, watch lunch up there with Andy and see how that goes. But he's very pleased. He participated in distance learning and completed the courses. He said it was extremely difficult. He was excited to get back to school.
Dr. Gandhi and then Dr. Newman.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want to portray that everything is perfect, because I think lunch, as we talked about, even as a COVID instructional plan committee, that is where we're going to be most vulnerable. And that is where we have the largest congregation of students, and where students are not wearing masks as well. So we're doing a wide variety of things, depending on the level and depending on the school building as well, and what we can do to either spread out students or make sure that students are staying with a certain group of kids at the lunch table if we can. But we understand that that is one of the challenging areas that we have to continue to monitor and take a look at. Additionally, I just also wanted to say that at the elementary level, we have had a philosophy change. Part of the reason that, our teachers are now monitoring recess. That is something that we've asked our elementary teachers to do, so we don't have multiple groups out there at the same time and to be able to accommodate for planning time. And I know that's a difficult change for our district as well, but it's something that we're extremely grateful that our teachers have taken on that responsibility. We have seen both a decrease in student injuries and student behaviors with that as well. DPI has also put out some guidance saying that recess is something that counts towards instructional time, with the expectation that it's being monitored by teachers or administrators as well. So that has been a change. Definitely different than a practice before, but something that we put in place because of COVID-19 and the inability to find noon supervisors or recess supervisors, and we are seeing benefits from that. So not everything's kind of perfect, but as we go and we learn, we are going to make those changes accordingly. So.
Dr. Newman?
That actually was a lot of what I was going to say. So I guess I'll just add thank you for sharing that, David. As a parent in this district as well, I think we are all kind of waiting for that first week that they were all back. And I was very pleased. I have children at Discovery and Centennial, and there were 0 cases in both buildings, having all kids back. So it was nice to get those emails.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. On to the legislative update, Dr. Gandhi and Robin. Who would like to start out? Robin?
Where do you start? Everything is moving so very quickly. I spend a lot of my day monitoring bills. A little report that I put together that I was going to report on later, but I guess I will right now. Governmental Affairs Legislative Committee, that's what we're working on. We did meet on the 15th. We determined the date for the pre-crossover meeting. It will be a virtual meeting on February 23rd at 7 a.m. We want to keep it at a half an hour, so our audience members will stay. More to come on that, but if you hold that date, we'd appreciate it. The next GAC meeting, next GAC meeting is February 19th, but we've been busy. Everything happens so quickly. It happens by the minute. I will say that we've been several weekly legislative meetings throughout the last, after the last board meeting, daily communication with legislators, with texts and emails. I've been watching a lot and following a lot of bill testimony, helping coordinate written and oral testimony. Some of the main pieces that we are working on and watching clearly is any curriculum mandates, there's a suite of gun bills again. There is funding bills, limitations on property taxes, the whole gamut, and same as a lot of these bills are almost exactly worded the same as last year that were defeated. So we're just going through the motions at the beginning of the session and winnowing down to those bills that will rise to the top. But in the meantime, it's a wild ride.
I want to express my gratitude to Robin and her leadership with the Governmental Affairs Committee. I think our district has been extremely engaged since the start of the legislative session, even maybe more so than we normally are prior to crossover. Just this year alone, in the first couple of weeks, we have provided testimony, either written or verbal. Dr. Newman has, Dr. Hanson, Principal Centennial, was signed up to, but got filibustered on school immunizations. Dr. Uzelman is testifying in regards to a bill that would help with more wraparound services to change the school to prison pipeline process and make sure that we are doing everything we can to provide more supports. Missy is signing off on a testimony regarding allocations for therapeutic services and what we can do because of a program that we're using for targeted case management at Jefferson as well. I know that Robin's going to be testifying on patriotic societies and the impact on curriculums when they're allowed to go into instructional time as well. So just want to express my gratitude to the wide variety of staff members that have engaged in Fargo Public Schools, but it is busy, as we know, so we plan to continue being busy, but we are happy that we have a lot of staff that are engaging and advocating for our district.
Thank you, and I might add that some of the technology updates allow us to be that much more engaged. So hopefully those will go forward in the future. But yeah, I could watch testimony all day if I had the time.
Thanks to both of you. The next item is the FEA report. I was notified today that Kim Belgard would not be able to be here this evening, so we'll move on to the superintendent's report and back to Dr. Gandhi.
I think outside of COVID and legislative session, I don't have any other reports, so.
Okay, moving along to the consent agenda, is there a motion for approval? Jim?
I move adoption of the consent agenda as provided in our packet.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We do not have any items on our business agenda this evening, so we'll move on to board reports, starting with committee liaison and correspondence reports. Brian, how about if we start with you and work the way around the room?
Basically, just have one thing, and I attended a GAC meeting. Was that last Friday or the Friday before? It was something like that, but that was the meeting, and I believe we have a planning meeting this Friday. So
Thank
that's
you.
it.
Yep, thank you, Brian. Robin, anything else?
Just a couple outside chamber public policy call was on January 19th. Also working on legislative items. DPI Lunch and Learn on 1/20. On January 21st, I was invited to a chamber workforce focus group by Shannon Full. They have, she's presenting a software platform to connect students to businesses and internships and job shadows, so we'll see where that goes. Contacted all of my schools. The first school I'll be in on Thursday is at Davies, and Principal Cody said, you got to come and see how we're running lunch. So I am interested to see how that will work as well. Our daughter also goes to Fargo South, and I talked to my Boys and Girls Club, Teen Club. They are all very excited to be back in school. And so it's kind of a exciting time, but also kind of an interesting time. But I appreciate that they are back in school.
Thank you, Robin. Jim?
Just a couple of things. I too was at the GAC committee meeting, and as Brian said, we have a planning committee on Friday, 7:30 down at the DO. I missed last Thursday's North Dakota School Boards Association legislative update, but was on it the week before. Attended the North Dakota School Board's Lunch and Learn this last week, and we had the preliminary meeting of the National School Board Policy and Resolution Committee, just in preparation for the annual meeting coming up in April. And I think that's it.
Great, thank you, Jim. David?
I have nothing to add either. We have, I think we have planning Thursday and governance Friday.
Other way around. Governance Thursday, planning Friday.
That was close.
Both at the same time, though, so that works out. Okay, David, thank you. Jennifer?
Oh, there. Okay, so I called in for GAC, and I was also, I participated in the public forum last week, and I just want to say thank you to Todd for helping me facilitate, because I barely had a voice that day. So that was very kind. We had a great group, and a lot of good comments and feedback came from that as well. And I really appreciated how smooth and seamlessly the IT department put that together for our groups to be able to go in and out of. That was, at least in my group, we had no hiccups, so that was fantastic. Thank you. So I thought that went well. We had very good conversation, just as we do, you know, in a face-to-face setting. So thank you for that. And then planning coming up on Friday. That's it.
Thank you, Jennifer. Nikki?
I too attended the State of the Schools, had a great group, and everything worked seamlessly. We had fantastic conversation. It did feel like we were sitting in the same room, having great discussion. January 15th, I called into GAC January 19th, we had the Communications Advocacy and Engagement Committee. And today I did the North Dakota Healthy Return to Learn. I did sign up for the NDSBA Lunch and Learn, but I was triple booked at that time, so they sent me the recording. So I do have that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Seth?
Did my first State of the Schools focus group, and I know that everybody would have liked to seen the numbers be a little bit higher in attendance, but I would say that the quality of the engagement and the conversation definitely outweighed the lack of numbers, so that was pretty good. The 19th CAE meeting, and then just planning upcoming on Friday. So.
Thank you, Seth. Dr. Newman?
I too was part of the State of the Schools address. I'll just echo everyone's sentiments. It was a good, fun time doing that the first time. I also attended GAC on January 15th. On the 18th, I did an interview with Joel Heitkamp on his show Down the Road regarding two specific bills regarding vaccinations, particularly 1320 was regarding vaccinations in schools. I later testified to the legislature against that bill with some colleagues from the Department of Health and Dr. Leanne Hansen from Centennial. And then I did his radio show on the 19th on the same topic. 19th, we had Communication, Advocacy, and Engagement Committee meeting. On January 20th, I did attend the NDSBA Lunch and Learn in regards to federal stimulus packages. It was really interesting to learn the second and potentially third round of federal funding coming our way and how that's going to roll out in our state. Just today, I answered some questions from reporter Chris Hagan regarding COVID data in our schools and possibly student testing in our district. And then just for fun, my daughter, who's a fifth grader at Centennial, was selected to serve on Kristen Baszler's state superintendent cabinet. It's an 18-month term, and she has meetings at the state capitol every 3 months. They advise on what's going well and what students need to help improve in education across our state. So I'm really excited about that. If you guys have any pressing issues, let me know. And then I was appointed to the North Dakota Department of Health BU Advisory Board. That'll be a 2-year term. And we basically form community partnerships and provide health-related recommendations to the Department of Health about that population. I'm very excited about that as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Tracy. The President's report is in front of you. We have monitoring due February 3rd for EL 12 and 13. That's our next homework due. Let's see here. Governance, as we've already talked about, is this Thursday at 7:30. I attended GAC and the Communications, Engagement, and Advocacy Committee meetings that were held previously. Want to echo the comments regarding State of the Schools and the public focus groups. Huge thanks to everyone at the district level helping to put that event together in a virtual way. Yes, we always would like more participation, but I'm thinking back to a conference that I attended a few years ago, and it was at the tail end of the day, and many people had decided it was time to leave. They had just, had a long day and wanted to get out a little bit early. And the person that was facilitating the conference said something to the effect of, those who are here are the ones meant to be here at the time. And so we take the information with the people that are able to show and participate. And I know that there is also an effort from the district level to gather information from people that had intended to participate, had signed up, but weren't able to be there. So our conversation was extremely valuable in our group as well. And it was especially fun for me, I'll say, because former board member Dinah Goldenberg, who now lives in Nevada, signed up to participate. And so we had a good time. So thanks again to everyone involved in that. The Native American Commission meets February 4th. I'm hoping that either at that meeting or the March meeting, there will be a presentation where Mr. Berkman and Melody Stabner will help provide a little bit of an update as far as what's going on with the plans for the naming of, which will be Dakota High School. And they've both said that they are willing to participate and provide that update. So I'm just working to get that set up either for February or March. There was an article that I wrote that was centered around the governance committee that came out in both Journey and School Talk last week. And I want to share that from my family's standpoint, my two girls that are at North Juniors are having a nice time back at school, but the challenge that we're having is with the dog that we have at home. He is a dog that, his name is Harrison, and we are training him, actually, my one daughter, Sophia, is training him through an organization called Canine Companions for Independence. And the toughest thing is that she has not been around for him. And when she came home from school today, he was right up next to her, and she said, "Oh, I think the toughest thing about school 5 days a week is for Harrison." So I hope that gives a little smile and chuckle to all of you. And thanks everyone for being here this evening. Our next meeting is February 9th, and it's 6:17, and we're adjourned.